We're going to be in Psalm 123. There are 15 different psalms called the Psalms of Ascent, A-S-C-E-N-T. The reason they're called Psalms of Ascent is that Jerusalem is up. If you come from the north, the south, the east, or the west, you're going up a mountain to worship the Lord. Zion, Jerusalem. And so they would come and they would sing these songs of ascent each time they came, each year, to bring their sacrifices to the Lord. This is one of those psalms, Psalm 123. Let's look at this together. It's not very lengthy. In fact, it's only 4 verses long. And it says this: I lift up my eyes to you whose throne is in heaven. As the eyes of slaves look to the hand of their master, as the eyes of a maid look to the hand of her mistress, so our eyes look to the Lord our God, till he shows us his mercy. Have mercy on us, O Lord, have mercy on us, for we have endured much contempt. We have endured much ridicule from the proud, much contempt from the arrogant. May God add blessing to the reading and doing of his holy word. This psalm is really a cry from the depths of scorn and depression. W.T. Perkheiser gave that to me. It's a cry. Think about that. It's a cry from the depths, down deep, of scorn and depression. These folks, the Israelites, had been in exile, and they had been brought out, and they're still making their ascent to the Lord. But they're remembering back to some of those prayers and those dirges that they sang while they were away in captivity. And as they're coming back up this hill to go worship the Lord again, they're singing some of those old songs. And it's okay to sing old songs. It's okay to sing new songs. It's just good to sing to the Lord. And whatever mood you're in, you pick that song. It can help you to worship the Lord. Sometimes you put on an old gospel song. Maybe it's a brand new song. Maybe it's this or that. It doesn't matter. You just say, Lord, I want to worship you in spirit and in truth. And so these people were worshiping the Lord as they're going up the mountain, but it's a cry of scorn and depression. Psalm 123, this cry from the heart can still speak for our contemporaries under persecution and give us the words to pray in unison with them. It's from Derek Kidner. Do you ever get really down? You go, Pastor, are we supposed to talk about that in church? Yeah. Many of the saints throughout the Bible got really down. They got really discouraged. They battled with depression. The prophet Elijah battled with depression. You think, well, why would he? God was speaking directly to him. You know, people struggle with depression. We can't just sweep that under the rug and think it doesn't affect Christians. Christians get down. And when we get down, there are some things we can do that are different than the world will do. And that is, we begin to look unto God. He holds us and cradles us even in our down moments. So how do we climb out of these distressful situations? We get in distressful situations. You may be in one of those now. You've lost your job. Maybe you've lost a child. Maybe you've lost a spouse. Maybe you've lost something that you don't even know what it was. You just know you're sad. There's something different about your life. How do we climb out of these distressful situations? We're going to look under this psalm to help us. Verse 1, I lift up my eyes to you whose throne is in heaven. That is key. The first thing you do is, Lord, I don't feel like it, but I'm going to turn my eyes upward. I'm going to look at you. I'm down in the dumps, Lord. I've got the blues right now, Lord, but I'm going to turn my eyes unto you. It's something that the psalmist had to willfully do. You have to turn your eyes upon the Lord. Our eyes look to the Lord. There are lots of things to look to. Grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, siblings, relatives, church folks, all these things. Those are okay. But the psalmist passed all those and went right to the Lord. Our eyes look unto the Lord. Look up. Look up. The Lord is in his holy temple. The Lord still rules from heaven. He watches everyone closely, examining every person on earth. That's Psalm 11:4. That's a powerful psalm for us to remind us. He is with us. I lift up. I lift up. Heaven is up. That's what heaven means. It means up. It's another dimension somewhere. It's where God rules on his throne, and there is a throne in heaven We think there's a throne in Washington, D.C. There are thrones in Saudi Arabia. There are thrones in other places. But there is a throne in heaven. And I want to tell you that until you see that throne, your life can be in disarray. I think we have to continually look back to the throne which is in heaven. That's what the psalmist says. I lift up my eyes to you, to whose throne is in heaven. Do you remember in Revelation, John gets this massive revelation from God concerning Jesus Christ and the end times, eschatology. And in this book of Revelation, John sees something that just takes his breath away. He's in the spiritual realm, okay? He's not on earth. He's taken up. He's met up with God in glory, and he sees these magnificent things. And he said, "Then I saw a great white throne and him who sits upon it, from whose presence earth and heaven fled away, and no place was found for them." This place is so glorious, it's so great, it's so grand, it's so awesome because this throne represents the goodness of God and the judgment of God as well. And everything in God's presence that's not of God is trying to get out of there fast. The earth and the skies, John's giving this idea, they're trying to flee from this one on this throne. Did you know God is awful? That's an old word. We use it differently now, but God is awful. He's full of awe. We come into his presence not as like he's my good old buddy, but God is our maker. He is our creator. He is our judge. And we come into his presence only through the blood of Jesus Christ. And we come in, and this idea that he's on this throne, it's this big throne, it's a grand throne, it's a white throne, it's a throne of judgment. And the psalmist says, I look up and I see God on his throne. What does that do to you? What does that do to your perspective when you see God seated on a throne? It gives great comfort, doesn't it? He's in control. God is in charge. This world seems like it's going fast into a spiral into the dirt, but God is in control. He is. He's in control. Either he's in control or he's out of control. He can't be both. He's one or the other. The Bible teaches us that he is sovereign. Jesus taught us to pray, our Father which art in heaven. Again, look up. Look up. Look up to God in heaven. But my eyes are fixed on you, sovereign Lord. In you I take refuge. Fixed, fastened. I mean, you intentionally say, no, I'm not going to look at my circumstances. I'm going to get through them with the Lord's help, but I'm going to look up. I cast my eyes upon you, O God in heaven. It's amazing how animals can teach us things. Any of you have animals, dogs, cats, kids? They can teach us things. Our son had us keep his golden retriever for about a month. And talk about extreme focus. This dog, this golden retriever, she is just beautiful dog, Indy, beautiful disposition, just tame and docile. She greets you every time you come to the door like you are $1 million. I mean, she just thinks you are all that and a bag of chips. And you come to the door and she greets you, and then she wants you to take her outside. And she'll go outside, and you know what she's looking for in our mulch? Little lizards. And her tail is just going back and forth, and her eyes are fastened on the ground. She's staring under these bushes, and she hears something, and she runs, and I've got a leash, and she's pulling me around there in the mulch. She is so fixed on finding lizards, and then she finds one, and she picks it up, and then she throws it in the air, and then she dives on it with her shoulder. I don't know why she does that. She's trying to dominate that little lizard, I guess. And then she loses it. She's not known to be smart. She's known to be a lover, this dog. And she loses that lizard in the grass every time. But then the next time we go out, what's she doing? Tail, ooh. And her eyes, she's fastened in, she's looking, she's listening. She is so fixed on these lizards. And our family began to say, she's almost becoming neurotic. She wants to find these lizards all of the time. We can learn things from animals. Do you fix your eyes on Jesus? Oh, Jesus, I want you. Oh, Jesus, I want to follow whatever you say. Lord, I turn my eyes upon you. Fix your eyes upon Jesus. Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. Did you know God began your salvation? And he will finish your salvation? He's the one that we look to. We look to him. You ever heard this song? Turn your eyes upon Jesus, look full in his wonderful face, and the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace. Turn your eyes upon Jesus. I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. Psalm 121. This is the next verse. As the eyes of slaves look to the hand of their master, as the eyes of a maid look to the hand of her mistress, so our eyes look to the Lord our God till he shows us his mercy. This is just showing us that the image expresses complete and absolute dependence. The eye which waits and hopes and is patient, looking only to him and none other for help. Little child that's malnourished, looking unto others to provide for his or her need. Child can't receive those on their own. They must be given by somebody else. We're like that. Lord, we're like little kids. We look unto you. You provide for all of our needs, oh God. I can go to doctors and I can get prescriptions and those are all okay. But Lord, ultimately my help comes from the Lord. Turn your eyes upon Jesus. Our eyes look to the Lord our God till he shows us his mercy. There it is, this word mercy repeated 3 times in these 4 verses. Have mercy on us, O Lord, have mercy on us, for we have endured much contempt. What does mercy mean? To bend, to stoop in kindness to an inferior, to favor, to bestow. Grace. Grace is getting something good that you don't deserve. Mercy is not getting something that you do deserve. Grace, we want heaven. Thank you, God. You give us grace. You give us something good that we do not deserve, heaven. But God, thank you that you give us mercy. We deserve hell, but you keep us from hell through your blood that was shed on the cross. He keeps us from things that we deserve. So what does it look like in military battle? 2 men fighting to the death, and one that has started it has hurt the other one so badly, hurt his family, hurt his name, hurt his cause, and the one that's on top that's about to win the battle stops and has compassion and stands up, and he lifts the other fellow to his feet, brushes him off, hugs him, and restores him. That's the idea. We're at animosity with God, but what does he do? He stops the fight, he gets up, he lifts us up, and he hugs us. That's mercy. God is extending mercy to us. Answer me when I call to you. Be merciful to me and hear my prayer. That's the psalmist. He says that. We have endured much ridicule from the proud, much contempt from the arrogant. Much ridicule. Oh, is God really your God? The world ridicules us now, doesn't it, church? Oh, you trust in, we don't even see God. You trust in God? Yes. The world ridicules us, but we stand upon his word. Much contempt from the arrogant, much scorn, but we say, nope, I will trust the Lord. I will trust the Lord. This idea of despise was from what Goliath did to David. Remember? When the Philistine looked and saw David, he despised him because he was just a boy, ruddy and handsome. Despise, that's the same Hebrew word. The world despises the Christian today. We don't turn a mean eye to the world. We love the world. Even though we're being despised and rejected. Here's another psalm. Do not fret because of evil men or be envious of those who do wrong. For like the grass, they will soon wither. Like green plants, they will soon die away. We'll leave that with the Lord. How about this prophecy from Isaiah 53? You've heard this before, haven't you? He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief, and we hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. This Jesus that we love and serve, he was despised. He was rejected. And when we follow him, guess what? You will be despised and rejected. If you're following him, you will be. You will face persecutions and trials and suffering like you've never known. How do we climb out of these distressful situations? We look up. Oh God, rescue me. Lord, I said this yesterday, and I said it at noon, and I said it at dinner, and I said it when I went to bed, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and I said it again, Lord, would you rescue me? Lord, help me. How do you get out of distressful situations? Look up. Go to the Lord for everything. I heard the story last week about a little girl named Sydney that got a disease called dystonia. It's a movement disorder in which a person's muscles contract uncontrollably and there's no cure. This little girl going to a Nazarene church in Carthage, Missouri. She got this disease when she was 9, and she prayed and prayed, and her parents prayed, God, please help us with our daughter. They've gone to all these doctors, and they've gone to different places in Texas and California and Kansas City, trying to find help. This girl has little leads coming out of her head. Well, she's grown up, and she's 16 now. And she said to her parents, Mom and Dad, I'm done. If I don't get any help, let's just stop going to these doctors. It just depresses me. We keep going to these doctors, and I get my hopes up, and then nothing happens. All of her friends, 16, driving, going out, having a great time. And she can't because she's in a wheelchair. Her arms don't work. She looks kind of like a pretzel. And her parents are crying over her. Lord, give her help. Well, her small group, that family's small group, Sydney's parents are in a small group there in Carthage, Nazarene, and they're praying. And they're saying, we need to have faith. We need to trust that God's going to help us. And they begin to pray and fast and trust. And they said, let's ask God very specifically what he wants to do. Let's ask God specifically about things that we want him to do for us. And so they said, God, whenever the parents take Sydney out to California, give them good airline prices. It's going to be expensive. And Lord, give them the Ronald McDonald House out there in San Francisco, because it's going to be expensive. And Lord, give them unexpected kindnesses. And Lord, give them the best doctors in the world. They prayed very specifically because they thought vague prayers never seem to get answered because you don't know if they're answered or not. So they were talking about praying with specificity. And so they prayed these things, and as they went, they found out, oh, COVID is happening. Oh, no, we got to get the test. Oh, all negative. Good, we get to go. Oh, somebody bought them airline tickets to go out to San Francisco. They got out there, and they're on the waiting list. Only 3 people could be in the Ronald McDonald House, 3 families. And they were one of them. They got in. They had the best doctor in the world who was stationed in the Ronald McDonald House because of COVID. He was doing all telemedicine on his phone, but he was at that house. And he is giving great care to her and talking to the parents. Because they're experimental drugs, they give them to her for free. And she takes them gladly. She's got these leads out of her head, as I said, and she's so down. And they went to a Whole Foods place to get some food, and they were there, and somebody's knocking at their door out there in San Francisco on their window of their car. And they kind of alarmed, and they look, California, what's going to happen out here? And this guy hands him a bouquet of flowers and says, I just felt led to give your daughter a bouquet of flowers because she looked like she was having a down day. See all the prayers that are being answered all along the way? And the girl, they go back and they do the final procedure, and they're going home, and the next day they're at home, and Sydney does worse. The parents lose heart. The mom's just about to give up. Lord, I'm so tired of praying about this. I'm so depressed. I'm so down. I'm so discouraged. God, do you hear me when I'm talking to you? The next day, the girl's head that was tremoring has stopped. The next day, she's sitting up in bed on her own. A week later, she's walking without help. The next week, she's driving a car. 2 weeks ago, she was riding her horse. Her parents said they made her wear a helmet, but she's riding a horse. And this disease that has no cure, this girl is walking around and talking. Do you know what you call this? Thank you, a miracle. Why did God do that? He chose to. But I think it's because they also prayed in faith that God, if this is your will, we'll take a miracle from you. And they prayed and they prayed and they prayed, and they were so down in the depths of despair. And they kept their eyes on Jesus. And what happened? He came through and he answered prayer for them. Turn your eyes upon Jesus. Look full in his wonderful face. He's got a wonderful face. Do you need a miracle today? Are you at the end of your rope and you're kind of traveling along, going up the hill towards Jerusalem, and you're so distraught, you're so discouraged, you're so down? Oh God, I need a miracle from you. Ask specifically Write it down. I've been writing down my prayers recently. After I heard George Mueller, a man of faith, a man of prayer, he had over 30,000 answers to prayer, specific answers to prayer. He wrote them down and then he would date them when God answered. Do you have that kind of faith? God, I'm going to write them down. God, would you lead my son to Jesus Christ? Put the date. Lord, I'm waiting on you to answer it. You know, we think that maybe God is insulted when we ask so big. But maybe God is insulted when we ask so little. I don't know where you are, but we're to turn our eyes upon Jesus. Fix your eyes on Jesus.